It is After Monday, and we do welcome you to another edition of After Monday. And let me thank you very much, mostly those who have been getting in touch with us to give us feedback on the previous editions of After Monday podcast. We do appreciate that. So once again, welcome. My name is Joy, and on this day we got several things we shall talk about. And I remember correctly, the last edition we did talk a little bit about Kosoma, and with recent developments, we definitely just have to dive in again. And let me welcome my friend. This is Chikweba, and how are you, man?
I'm all right.
I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah.
Am I getting there? Am I slowly getting the gist of Chikweba?
You're doing well. I think that's the beauty about doing it more often.
Exactly.
So it's going well.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it's good. Actually, a new scene for once.
Wonderful.
Outside.
Oh yeah, definitely loving the new scene, and we shall see how it goes. And it's all about new things, trying out this and that, just to see how it's gonna go. So let me just remind you that this is where we talk all things creatives in Malawi, recent developments, or what's been happening, or sometimes we just share the experience that we have in as far as Malawian entertainment and creativity is concerned. And of late, there's been a lot that's been happening. Is it drama everywhere?
I know that usually people say a lot is happening, and happening is a lot. So yeah, no, but I think that's how growth is. You know, I think if we do get to this space where we have so much that we can talk about, it means there's so much that we are learning from those instances, and hopefully we can continue these conversations and inspire more conversations, as growth is something that is very dynamic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to be able to see growth in another dimension.
Talking about growth and also finding your space in the creative industry, I get interested to find out how did you decide to stick to what you're doing now, to considering the fact that you've done so much. You're an artist once, which
Yes.
people don't know.
Yeah,
But
I think that's the beauty about art. You know, I think also it stems from like right now. Even when we're working with an artist, I always tell them, like, listen, record as much as you can. It's the same about life. Try as many things as you can.
In fact, make mistakes and fail.
Because my ability to be where I am is I had to be in a space where it allowed me to gain knowledge from spaces that I couldn't have gotten maybe in a classroom. I've had a chance to experience the creative side of talent from the spotlight, behind being able to be a photographer and videographer. It allowed me to understand certain things that I could have not if I didn't try those spaces. And also it allowed me to know what I can actually put my mind and say, this is what I'm really comfortable in. Actually, it makes me feel alive. You know, sometimes we are normally we're usually in that comfort zone where we're not even trying to push ourselves and see what else we can actually do. But when you have time, the resources, the energy, most importantly, the time, we should be able to try out and see what, because you have to be in an experimental phase as well at some point. You try out things and see what's working and what's not. Even before we start recording this podcast, we have to start how we need to see how the camera angles are looking. You know, you just don't come and say, okay, let's start shooting.
Yeah.
So that is what I think has equipped a lot of us to be in a space like here, where you're saying, okay, now I can do A, B, C, D, because obviously you can't do everything. So it has to be a plan, a time where you say, okay, I think I've tried that, but I don't think that is for me. I want to try that, but I think at the moment I've already found what I need to be doing. And I usually joke about this, and I don't know how true it is for other people, but I always say you have between the age of 16 to 24 to try and as many things as you can and figure out and travel, and if it means moving and everything, you can, but I feel like by the age of 24, not to put pressure on anyone, but I feel like this is the range that allows you, by the age of 24, there's a bigger I would say you'd have at least have an idea what you think you can actually put your mind to, than actually experimenting up until the rest of your life, you know. So, but I think it's everyone's personal choice to understand what they want to do, you know. I don't think you just became a radio host. You know, you had to also try out other things and avenues. I know as a colored, you obviously had to try and be a mechanic. Yeah. So like, I know, but then you're like, okay.
I did badly though.
You see, now you have to say, well, I think at this point, this is what I can try out to be. But for me, it's like, if we have the chance, let's try as many things as we can. It'll get to a place where your mind gets to like a place. I think this is where I need to be. It's never that vivid, but it's something that you can try to like, okay, let me see if I can actually put my mind to this. And trying to be a jack of all trades, that's the other problem. You really, and like I said, by the age of 25, 26, there are responsibilities that are coming in. That's what I'm saying. By 24, yes, we all have responsibilities, but at that point, things are more dynamic. And I think when you have responsibilities, you don't have a lot of time to experiment. I feel like the time that you don't have responsibilities as much as you would then, put in effort and try as many things as you can. If you fail, that's what life is. You know, you pick up, you find other things. And that's how I think we should be there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You gotta love shooting in the outdoors. I mean, there's so many things happening, so much noises, adding to the ambience of, our location on this particular day. Now, I did mention when we started this podcast to say that we are gonna dive into the Kosoma issue because there's just been too many things happening and too much noise. Certain quarters crying out loud to say what's happening with the copyright fund or what's happening with Kosoma is not fair. Other quarters supporting them. So maybe we're lucky that we've got Prince here, Chikweba here, who is, I would like you to maybe make us understand what is the copyright fund and who are supposed to be the beneficiaries.
No, but I think I would do injustice to Kosoma if I explain what that is supposed to be. I think over the time, maybe we might have a chance to actually have a conversation with them and then they can explain properly what that is supposed to be. But I think my 2 cents would be, there are a few things that we probably need to also focus at. Sometimes I feel like we focus on things that are probably as important, but there might be something that is more important than anything else. I think in my view is, if we want our industry to be a commercial entity, we have to start behaving like commercial entities. And commercial entities have a certain way that they are supposed to operate. And I feel like that's where I think the most important part of this conversation should actually be at. As a country, we have gotten a lot of grants for so many things. And a lot of millions and billions of dollars, not just kwachas, but dollars.
Some you're able to track to say this is how they went. Some you don't even know.
Yeah, I feel like for me, who got it, who's supposed to get it, I think that's another conversation. We can talk about it in whatever way. But more importantly for me is, I feel like we are missing the bigger picture. And that's just how I look at it. That in the sense that I don't think there's an industry that has grown from grants. I feel like that's us trying to hide a problem. It's like we are not understanding if we want to create a commercial entity, there are commercial activities we're supposed to do. I feel like grants would operate in another spectrum. I feel like grants are problem-based, you know. They are more like, okay, you're doing an innovation, you're doing something that social change, you know, stuff like that. I think if we as creatives, we want to commercialize our art, we have to run away as much as we can from grants and calling it support, stuff like, no, Malawian people don't support Malawian music. No, we don't need Malawian support as we put it in that way. We need creatives to create a commercial value that anyone else can see despite thinking of supporting. Because even the issue about buy Malawian products, I'm not going just to buy something because it's Malawian. I have to buy it because I understand how it is of value in that context. The idea of almost helping the creative industry, is what has made the industry be stuck at where it at, because no one is thinking about the commercial value that they need to create. Everyone is looking at the sympathy, almost like a sympathy type of way. And I feel we need to have an honest conversations as creatives. How we want people to look at us is how we present ourselves to them. Because when you look at it, we are having grants to do whatever that we would like to do, for instance, in whatever proposal that people wrote. And I think that's fine. People can write proposals and it's okay. It's very allowed. But from an industry point of view, there are certain things that probably we're not looking at that. But if we have enough money to share to individuals in the industry, we have to remember the big problems in the industry. And right now, artists are performing in bars and clubs. If we have enough money, or not if enough money, but funds that we can create what are grant-based projects, I would suggest that's something that you can do, because you're not helping Joy, you're helping the industry. If you build a rehearsal space, which at the moment, these are small spaces that people are just making on their own. You understand? We had French culture. If we can say, okay, we have this enough money, let's try and speed up French culture, or let's build up something like that, or let's, because now artists, like I'm saying, they are performing in clubs, they are performing in bars, not because they want to, but because they don't have spaces that they can actually do those things. Now, when we are thinking that this is to empower the industry, we can't do it by thinking that that is the idea of saying, okay, Joy has this proposal and that's what we think. If we can invest that maybe in creating hubs, like I put it, that is more, you are creating capacity, and the other thing about, I think we have to look at the continuity of a grant. If we give you to say, okay, Joy wants to open his own radio station and you get the money, if the idea is just stuck at Joy has to open his own radio, what happens for you in 5 years after the grant money is finished? We have seen even radios that were paid for by almost like a grant, or they were supported by an entity, or exactly. So for me is, if we want to be handled and respected as a commercial entity, we have to act like commercial entities, and commercial entities are supposed to have capital, and that capital is something that you can get it from a grant base. We're not saying you shouldn't, but if we want to be taken serious in a certain way, because when I look at even issues of image rights, how are we're not downplaying the amount of money that and how important that money is to people that have gotten these grants. But the question is this: are we certain that's the precedent we want to set? We have not been privileged to know how the criteria for giving, I think, the ones that have won. But also there's the other part where, as we're running away from the commercialization of it, we're also having a situation where there are other entities in the creative industry that are not happy about who got the money or the grants because they didn't get. Which for me is, if you think that something is wrong, it has to be wrong universally. There has to be a way of us understanding that this is not just for us. This is a precedent for the next generation to come. If you're going to say something is wrong now, it shouldn't change because you are on the losing side. It should not change if you're on the winning side. So I feel like this conversation about grants should ignite a more important conversation of how we have grants that are, like, for instance, we have grants about building toilets, right, in the villages. You understand? We have seen those things.
With a certain campaign attached to it.
A lot of money has been put in it. Is that grant wrong? No. But again, we are helping people to have toilets in the villages, but they don't have anything
to eat,
so they can actually go to the toilet. So I'm not trying to say, well, you should do everything. I'm trying to say grants are project based. The longevity of it is not dictated by you who needs it. It's dictated by who is giving you. If I give you a grant to do a song about, for instance, malaria, you can go beyond talking about malaria. You can talk about the fuel crisis. You can talk about anything else. It's you understand? So if I give you a grant and say you want to do an international collaboration with an artist, but maybe that's what not you need. The grant made sense, but that's not what the industry needs. Or the industry will actually push you to realize that you need more than that. We have seen other creatives that actually need more than that. So for me, yes, I get it. We can't blame the creative industry trying to also see how best they can also raise funds. But at the same time, maybe it's time that we look at the industry as a commercial entity. And what we have to be looking at is how do we convince banks, NIF and all this to give creatives loans that are business oriented and they're making sense from a commercial drive. That may be because if you get a grant, sometimes you just want to tick the box. Oh, I needed to do ABCD and that's it.
And the question is, who follows up on those grants?
You understand? Because even you follow up, the next thing maybe that will change is you might not give me back that grant again, but I would have exhausted that money. There's nothing you're going to do about it. And as a country, we have to look at how we have performed in grants. It's so. If we want to grow the industry, I feel like we have to have very honest conversations and saying, okay, fine. One, what will these grants do to us? Is that how we want people to look at us? Because I know personally that some of the artists or not just artists, but creatives that want to get the grants or they got the grants, their image rights alone are bigger than what they were looking for. And I feel like we're creating a precedent that we can't sustain by thinking that as a commercial entity, you can be at a space where you can actually say, okay, let me see how best this commercial value I can create beyond just a grant. I feel like grants could go to people that are building media hubs, something that is more, okay, if you build a media hub, artists can come there and make money off that value that we have created. I think if we go in that direction, it goes beyond just, okay, we are supporting you when you're enhancing a project. Longevity is scaled properly. So, I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like it's
I come across so many artists, mostly young artists, who are trying to get into music and they've got several problems in terms of maybe raising finances to record at studios.
Yeah.
Or some of them you can find that they've got the skill, they've got the art, but they don't understand music. I would look at maybe at some point such grants, maybe assisting in opening maybe music schools with subsidized fees. I believe that would also help. Maybe a nice studio setup whereby with subsidized fees as well, whereby artists can go. I think that would also help, as you're saying, maybe something that would help a lot of people at one time than, several, just a few people.
The thing about it is that's why people start now looking at and pointing fingers, right? Because if they give joy, it's just joy.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I know they have a criteria. We have not been privileged to know what that is. We can only share what we think could also work out. Whatever they're trying to do, I think it has impact in so many other avenues. But what we can say is there are other angles that we can look at this conversation. And it's very important for us to look at it and I hope, when probably people that are concerned in this conversation, they understand where we're coming from this conversation. It's not about saying this is what is wrong, you understand? I think, and who they give to, that's another conversation. We can talk about it in other avenues.
Yeah.
But I think for us and for me per se, like as a person and someone who is in the industry, I would say there are other things that we can talk about from this conversation. And it's a lesson for me. It's like, okay, why are we having issues now that we're talking about grants? Maybe we don't need grants. Maybe we need commercial activities that are really business oriented. Because grants, because if it was a loan, I don't think people would have been this and saying, why are you giving a loan to Joy? No, because they know that money is not going to come back in that way. You understand?
Yes.
It's a grant. It's done, There's no way of, that money coming back in some way.
And maybe when it comes back, it should assist
another. You understand?
Yeah.
So for me, if it's that way, maybe we should need to say, okay, unless we say Kosoma give out loans, I don't know if it's feasible or not. But for me, there has to be another way of creating, because also grants, for the longest time, even just Africa in general.
We also need grants to buy headphones on this podcast because it looks fancy with those.
Right a proposal. No, but that's the idea. That's the thing. When you see grants being handed, sometimes grants is not about what you're actually going to do. It's how you can convince someone how you're going to do what you want to say to do.
Thanks, Chikweba. Thank you so much. We've spoken enough on this grants issue, but I think now it's time to maybe, I'm reminded because we're getting closer and closer to the elections.
So
the interesting thing is that this is a time whereby you see so many artists appearing on at different rallies, different events, which are organized by politicians.
Are you voting, though? Are you voting?
Can I proceed, though?
Are you voting?
Can I proceed?
Are you voting?
Am I voting? Are you voting?
We're not saying who you're going to vote for.
Are you voting?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's very important. I think it's no matter the situation you're in, if you have the chance to make a choice in a democratic space, exercise it. I think it's very important.
It is,
to do that. Yeah.
It is.
I think there's no. I always say there's no dolo in trying to say, well, I'm not going to vote. I understand why people say that, but I don't think it's. We should be able to decide, and you know, other people died for us to have this chance. You know, I think we need to honor them in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm noticing that there's a lot of people who are getting discouraged with.
Yeah, but life is like that. We are going to be discouraged by so many things.
So many things.
You know,
yeah.
We get sick. It doesn't mean we have to kill ourselves. That's how life is.
Apart from people getting discouraged, it's time for artists to make money during, you know,
as a business entity.
As
Again,
a business,
you know,
yeah.
Which is a very funny conversation, I think, in general, is because when you look at it, how we look at politics now, if you decide and say, or you were asked to host or DJ at a political rally.
In fact, I've done it before.
Yeah.
Not the previous elections, but the other one. Yes, I think that was 2014.
Yeah, were you taken as for those?
I was. In fact, there's one weekend I was booked to DJ for one political rally, and then
in government or opposition.
It was opposition at that time.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I was also hired as a DJ, and this time by the government side, and the money was good. I wouldn't lie.
But I'll tell you the funny story.
Yeah.
So this is I'll tell you one of the dynamics that are crazy. So as a country, we have normalized certain things that are wrong and very unfair to the creative side. Joy, as a DJ, he can go and DJ
anyway,
you know, anywhere, like at a Muslim event, at a Christian event, at a Buddhist, at a club, at whatever. Even if you are young, even if you are old, there won't be a label to you. There won't be a label. Like, they'll just say, you're a DJ. Like,
that's what he does. Yeah.
A musician, the moment they decide to perform at like a political rally, they are taken as, no, they have joined that party. And there are people that take it so serious that they don't even understand how I'm just doing my job. Like, before I went on stage, there was a guy who was fixing the stage.
Is he also yes.
in the party?
Yeah.
There's a guy who's taking pictures. Every event, this guy is hired to take these pictures for these guys. Is this guy... There's a sound engineer there. There are speakers there. Do you mean all these people? There are drivers. They have these politicians right now. If you go to car hires, a lot of car hires are out.
So you see, young people, it's good to be a DJ.
So, like, for me, I always like, why do we always have this unfair bias towards the people that actually stand? Because their job is to do music and they control masses.
They control masses. That's a factor.
And that's why they're there.
Yes.
They're not there. And they're not there because they have joined our party. If they do join, that's fine. That's a different conversation. But why can't we allow them to also to do their job and not put limits to how you need to do your job, you know? And that has really put a lot of artists, especially musicians, in a very tight space where they're denying themselves a business decision because they're afraid. I really loved what Fredo did, and I think with Fredo was was different. I think like on Sunday he did like
Yes.
he had all these artists, you know, and I saw videos and no one has said, oh, these guys have joined the party.
Yeah.
But I think it's because we know Fredo is an artist first. Anything else comes secondary. So we didn't look at it that way. But I know if it's another issue, it's always like, no, that one, it means they have joined. And if you are booked by a certain party, some political parties won't even book you because they think you are that, you know. I remember there's another project that a lot of artists failed to do, not because they didn't want to, but they didn't want to be associated with that political party in that moment. And there's so many examples, you know. And all I see is there's a need to recognize artists as businessmen and women. But at the same time, maybe also as we creatives, we haven't been able to properly display ourselves in a way that people should handle us as businessmen and businesswomen.
I was going to that point because we've seen, I think it all goes down to certain few individuals who, when they're booked to perform at political rallies, they use that opportunity maybe for their own benefit. They forget that they're businessmen.
They overdo it.
They tend to overdo it.
Yeah.
Overdress in party colors.
It's crazy.
Of course, they embrace, but you would understand maybe it's a choice that they make.
Yeah,
so I think everyone else thinks in that way to say, okay, if that artist did that, that means every artist is endorsing. Yes,
in that way.
He is endorsing in that way.
No, I think that's also something that's I'm saying that maybe there's also that part of us to also reconfigure how we present ourselves, because I've seen that not just on the political side, but even when entities, let's say, hire an artist and they say we want this artist to perform at our event, it's a company based event, and they'll say at the event they just say, okay, so we also have t-shirts, you know. Personally, we have had issues in saying, no, you booked an artist to perform, you didn't buy the image rights of him wearing your brand. That's a different conversation. If you are booked to perform, you are booked because there's a brand that you are known for. If they want to take two these brands in one spectrum, there has to be a different conversation. And image rights, I feel like this is another conversation totally. And I agree with you when you're saying that maybe the way we do it as well, we overdo it because we also make them believe that we are selling everything of everything of our everything. And sometimes it's like, no, you booked me. Even like artists from SA, best example is when you're booking them, they will tell you that they want posts because that's a different. They will just confirm that they're coming to perform, but to post, it's another charge. So maybe we also need to find a way of how we can quantify that and present it. I don't think it's just about charging, but it's having how we carry ourselves and people to understand that this is what you're asking me to do. It's like a DJ and say, okay, I don't charge the whole day. I charge hours.
Yeah, I charge hours.
You know? Yeah. So instead of like, how much do you charge to DJ at a wedding? And you just go like, no, 100. And then the whole day, imagine the whole day you're there. You understand? We're not saying everyone has to do that, but you have to also know how to present yourself and how you carry yourself, because that allows people to know how they also handle you. So it's a very, but I wish it's not just politics. I wish we would understand. Like I'm saying, you go to car hire now, there are no cars around because they are all taken by these campaigners. But no one will say, well, that car hire is for so political party. But just an artist, if they decide to do that,
so it's a thin line. So artists need to be very, very careful and balancing.
And you gotta be very careful because again, as a country, there are things that we just believe they're true that are not. And
that's why I love Malawi, man.
Oh man, I think it's a blessing at the same time. Where you can actually be a big voice because you really, and that's why it's so important when you come to places like this, when we're speaking like this in these mics, we're not just speaking to mics, we are speaking to people that if we say Joy is Indian, you understand? People believe it. They will not even. Some will not even have the chance.
One question.
Yes, they'll be like, we heard, on this podcast they said Joy is Indian, and then that is how misinformation can also go. So like for me, it's like all these platforms that we are creating as a musician, as whoever we are as creatives, I think we have to remember how crucial they are. And that's why kwanza to issue image rights, it's so important. Like you're booked.
Right.
Man, there's just so many things. People will say, okay, there are no interviews. Like here, an artist can be booked. Just before he gets on stage, someone's like, oh, we want to do an interview.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and like, for what? I know, for ABCD Media House. Like, okay. But, and then in the interview, they're not going to even ask about the show. They'll ask about,
totally, yes.
So you were,
different,
you know,
yes,
like.
Yes. You wrote something on social media,
you know,
or
like,
you were seen with someone.
And this is like, I didn't come here for an interview. If I want an interview, I go to the media house, or I call them to come. So there's so many things I think we just need to find a way to, you know, to make it work.
Now, the fact that this guy spoke that I'm Indian and now have to justify myself that I'm Malawian. Yes, that's how we come to the end of our podcast today. We got so many things we wanted to talk about, and we definitely shall carry them forward to the next
I think
podcast.
We need to have, I think we need to have, the next one, we need to have someone to
a guest to help us
unpack this.
Yes, definitely.
I think there's a bigger conversation.
There's a lot. There's a lot we need to discuss and also share with you. So don't forget, you can also comment and share, or if you have got anything you'd like to review best on this podcast, please put them in the comment section right below. We do appreciate you so much for always giving us the support to watch our podcast. So you coming through to watch the podcast up until this moment in time, it means that you've given us so much support, and that's all we need, all we require. So we shall definitely see you at the next podcast. Thanks a lot to Chikweba.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely for always coming through and sharing his knowledge and what he knows in as far as the creative space is concerned. Up until the next After Monday, have a good time.